In this video, we will discuss about why should we conserve biodiversity. Why should we conserve biodiversity? So there are many reasons we should conserve biodiversity. So all these reasons, they are grouped under three categories. What are the three categories? Narrow utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and third one is ethical. So these are the mainly three reasons we should conserve biodiversity. The first reason is narrow utilitarian. Narrow utilitarian. So human beings, they derive major requirements from different types of organisms. Their benefits are countless. So some of the important benefits are, first one is food. So all food we eat come from plants and animals. So what are the food? Cereals, pulses, milk, fruits, vegetables, egg, meat. So all these food generally they comes from plants and animals. So plants and animals, that is nothing but biodiversity. The second one is fats and oils. Fats and oils. So fats and oils also they come from plants and animals. Next one is timber. So usually we should all know wood. Wood is used as timber in constructing sites, and it is also used as, so wood is also used as timber in other departments like sports, in all these things. And next one is firewood. So 2 billion people throughout the worldwide, they used as firewood for the source of energy for cooking and heating. And firewood also comes from plants. And next one is industrial products. Industrial products. So some of the products like resins, tannins, perfumes, so all they are also comes from different plants and animals. And next one is drugs. So nearly 25% of drugs comes from different types of plants. So these are the some of the uses we obtain from plants and animals, or we obtain from biodiversity. So that's why we should conserve biodiversity. And second reason is broadly utilitarian. So biodiversity is the fundamental to ecosystem services in nature. The second one is broadly utilitarian. Second reason is broadly utilitarian. So already I told you biodiversity is one of the fundamental to ecosystem services in nature. In broadly utilitarian, the first one is, the most important thing is oxygen. So plants usually they release oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, the main product is organic materials and the oxygen is byproduct. So plants release oxygen in the process of photosynthesis. And Amazon rainforest, it releases 20% of oxygen. And next thing is pollination. In previous chapter we will discuss about pollination. So what is pollination? Transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma of another flower, same flower or genetically different flower. So pollination, it is the one of the important characteristic feature of reproduction in case of plants. And pollination process gives fruits and seeds. Without pollination there is no fruits and seeds. So that's why, and pollination is carried out by various animals like beetles or other insects, birds, snails, and even some of the larger sized organisms like arboreal rodents, lemur, and some other organisms also, they carry the pollen grains from one flower to another flower or from one plant to another flower. So pollination is also occur due to rich biodiversity. And one more thing is nutrient cycling. The ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystems and oceanic system, they regulate the nutrient cycle. What is nutrient cycle? It is the regular circulation. The regular circulation of various inorganic nutrients between biotic and abiotic components of ecosystem. So biotic, plants and animals. So plants and animals, that together is known as biodiversity. So rich biodiversity also helps in different types of cycling, different types of minerals, they are regularly circulated between biotic and abiotic components. Next, climate regulation. Climate regulation. So rich biodiversity also in terrestrial and oceanic system also regulate climate of world. And some important things are aesthetic value. So rich biodiversity gives aesthetic values. So these are some of the broadly utilitarians. And third reason is ethical. Ethically, we should conserve biodiversity because human being shares this ecosystem with millions of plants and animal species. They have evolved just as we have evolved. So that's why every species has an intrinsic value, not direct economic value. So that's why we should conserve biodiversity. So these are the three reasons. So we should conserve biodiversity. So if you want to conserve biodiversity, how do we conserve biodiversity? So there are two strategies. To conserve biodiversity, and these two strategies are in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. In situ and ex situ. In situ conservation means on site conservation. Ex situ means off site conservation. So first we will discuss about in situ conservation. So in situ conservation means it is the conservation of various plant and animal species from their natural homes. Conservation of plants and animal species from their natural homes at different levels. In situ conservation, if you want to conserve total forest, then you have to conserve tigers, then whole forest or whole ecosystem is conserved. In situ conservation, mainly we have to conserve threatened species. Threatened species mean the species those have high risk of extinction. And in situ conservation, there are two alternate methods to conserve various plant and animal species from their natural homes. And what are the two alternate methods? The first one is hotspots and second one is protected areas. These are the two alternate methods to conserve on site or from their natural homes of different plants and animal species. First one is hotspots. So what is the hotspots? Hotspots are the areas where they have high level of endemism and high level of species richness. Species richness and endemism are at high level. And there are some 34 hotspots have been identified throughout the world. Out of 34, 3 hotspots have been identified in India. So they are, first one is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. And second one is Indo-Burma region. Indo-Burma region is Northeast region. And third hotspot is Himalayas. So these are the 3 hotspots which have been identified in India. And usually hotspots, they have only 1.1% land area, but they contain 44% of species. If you conserve hotspots properly, then it reduces the risk of extinction up to 30%. Means hotspots contain a species which have a high level of endemism and high level of species richness. The land area, the covering of land area is very small, but they contain large number of species. That's why if we conserve hotspots properly, then it reduces the risk of extinction is about 30%. So this is the hotspots. And second alternate method, that is protected areas. So protected areas means the areas where biological diversity is naturally and culturally protected, maintained and managed through legal and other effective measures. Here biodiversity and natural and cultural purposes are also protected through some legal and other effective measures. And the protected areas are delimited based on their character. Some of the protected areas are all deserts. Some of the protected areas are old deserts. Some of them are wetlands. Some of them are tropical rainforest. Some of them are temperate regions, and some of them are mangroves, like that. And usually protected areas includes national parks, sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuaries, and protected areas includes national parks, sanctuaries, and man and biosphere reserves, or simply biosphere reserves. So all these areas, they are placed under protected areas. The first one is national parks. National park. So what is national park? It is a large scale area. It is a large scale area in which the organisms are protected in their natural homes. Here the betterment, here some of the rules and regulations provided for betterment of wildlife. And in India there are 90 national parks are present. Some of the national parks are also there. They are also used as World Heritage Sites, like Kaziranga National Park, Manas National Park, and Keoladeo National Parks. These three are the World Heritage Sites. And in national parks, grazing, collection of forest products, all they are not allowed. So they are totally under government protection. And second one is sanctuaries. So what are sanctuaries? They are a tract of land areas with or without lake. Here wild animals take refuge without being hunted. With or without lake, and wild animals take refuge being without hunted. And in sanctuaries, and sanctuaries are 448 sanctuaries present in India. In sanctuaries, grazing, collection of forest products, private ownership, all these conditions, all these characters are allowed in sanctuaries. Next, biosphere reserves. 14 biosphere reserves present in India. 14 biosphere reserves present in India. So biosphere is also large scale area. This biosphere, the area of biosphere, it is differentiated into three regions. Core region, buffer region. This is the core region, and this is buffer region, and this is transition zone. First, core zone. Here no human activities are allowed. It is totally protected area. And in buffer region, a little human activities are allowed. Here, so large number of human activities, human settlements, collection of forest products, all these things are there allowed. And IUCN introduced man and biosphere reserve. So all these areas are under protected areas, and some of the areas are also under protected areas. They are Ramsar sites. Ramsar sites. So generally wetlands are called Ramsar sites because their first convention, the first convention for conservation of wetlands, they held on Ramsar, city Ramsar in country Iran. So that's why wetlands are also called Ramsar sites. What are Ramsar sites? They are low-lying marshy areas which are filled with rainwater during the rainy season. And they are the unique habitat, and they also richness of flora and fauna. and they have some very important characteristic features. The next one is sacred groves or sacred forest. So sacred forest, they are the patches of forest where worship is also allowed, and there are number of sacred groves in India like Aravalli Hills, and in Meghalaya Jantia and Khasi Hills, Jantia and Khasi Hills, in Chhattisgarh, Chandra and some sacred groves. And in Meghalaya, Jantia and Khasi Hills are the last conservation sites which possesses large number of a unique particularly plant species. So all these areas, they are under protected areas. So these two are hotspots and protected areas. They are the two alternate conserving methods in situ conservation. And second one is ex situ conservation. Ex situ conservation means off-site conservation. So ex situ conservation means it is the conservation of selected plant and animal species outside from their natural homes. In situ conservation, they are conserved from their natural homes. In ex situ conservation, they are conserved selected plant and animal species conserved outside from their natural homes. And in ex situ conservation includes off-site collection and gene banks. In off-site collection, they are selected domesticated and wild species. They are conserved in botanical gardens, zoological parks and arboretum. So what is arboretum? Arboretum means garden. Garden with trees and shrubs. Is known as arboretum. So in offsite collections, the number of domesticated and wild species, they are conserved in botanical gardens, zoological parks and arboretum. And in first chapter in class 11, the living world, already know about what is botanical garden and what is zoological park. And second one is gene banks. So what are gene banks? Gene banks are institutes which maintain a viable seeds for future purpose. And these gene banks includes seed banks, tissue culture and cryopreservation. So cryopreservation, already we discussed cryopreservation in the second chapter. What is cryopreservation? It is the preservation of tissue at -196 degree Celsius with liquid nitrogen. So that process is known as cryopreservation. So these two are the different methods for conservation of biodiversity under ex situ conservation. Next, people's effort to conserve biodiversity or world efforts for conserving biodiversity. The first Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, this city in Brazil. It held in 1992. The first Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, and in this summit, the convention is signed by 152 countries in 1992. But India is party, and India joined in this convention in 1994. So in this convention, they signed or they pledged to conserve biodiversity. The second Earth Summit held on Johannesburg, South Africa in 2002. In this, 192 countries involved. They also pledged to to reduce the biodiversity loss of during 2010. And third Earth Summit also held in same Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2012. So these are the various world efforts to conserve biodiversity. And apart from that, besides this, some of the non-governmental organizations also they conserve biodiversity at different levels. So from this topic, biodiversity and conservation chapter is totally complete.